Jose had spent years in an isolated cabin, lost among the mountains. There was no one around him, just the creak of wood beneath his feet and the distant echo of his memories. Widowed for years, his only companion was a solitude that had settled in after his wife's death. Yet Jose had one thing tethering him to the world, a promise. Years ago, on her deathbed, his wife had begged him to keep living, to find a reason not to give up, to seek purpose beyond his grief. "If you hold on to a purpose," she had whispered, "I know we'll see each other again." Jose never fully understood what she meant. Maybe it was just a delirium of illness talking, but he clung to the hope of seeing her again. He was alone, and that thought comforted him. His children had left long ago. The visits stopped. The calls, too. All that remained was silence and the stars. Those stars that seemed to whisper some distant consolation to him every night. A consolation that never quite filled the void. Jose had never truly known how to fulfill that promise, until the night a light split the sky. One evening, as Jose gazed at the stars from his garden, something strange happened. The stars had always been his refuge, his only solace in endless nights of loneliness. But that night was different. An unfamiliar light shattered the serenity of the sky. It was something foreign, something that didn't belong to the universe he knew. The light streaked closer and closer, until, suddenly, it landed right in front of him. Jose's heart stopped. This wasn't a shooting star, not a meteor. It was something he had never seen before. A ship, and from that ship emerged a figure. A young woman with luminous blue skin, as if she carried the glow of the very stars he loved. Her name was Zaida, and in that moment, Jose knew his life was about to change forever. Zaida was young and beautiful, her skin a shimmering blue that mirrored the stars Jose had spent years admiring. Her large, violet eyes held an ocean of emotions, desperation and hope tangled together. Her long, silver hair moved as if alive. Seeing her, Jose was speechless. There was something almost unreal about her beauty, something ethereal and magnetic that disarmed him completely. Deep in his heart, he felt a spark of emotion he hadn't known in years, a connection beyond the physical. Zaida was the leader of her planet, but she was afraid. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "You have to help me." Jose, surprised but curious, studied her for a long moment before speaking. "I don't know how I can help you. I'm just an old man," he said with a bitter laugh. Zaida shook her head. "Old? To us on Navera, you're still young. You still have so much energy. On Navera, years mean nothing." Jose smiled faintly. "Here on Earth, years aren't exactly kind." "That doesn't matter," Zaida insisted. "I need your help. My planet depends on you. Without you, Navera will die." A heavy silence fell. Jose saw the vulnerability in her eyes, the desperate hope hanging on him like a last resort. He frowned. "I don't understand. How can your planet's existence depend on me? I'm just an ordinary man." Zaida met his gaze with determination. "You'll understand when we get there." It wasn't just attraction he felt then. It was something deeper, something that reminded him of his own loneliness. And then he remembered how good it would feel to have a purpose again. Helping this alien girl seemed like a good one. "All right," he said finally. "I'll listen. I'll do what I can." And so he agreed to follow Zaida to the planet Navera. When they arrived, Jose found a withered world. The fields were dry, the rivers empty. The mountains, once lush and green, were now bare and gray. The pain of Navera hung in the air, a silent sorrow reflected in the faces of its women. Zaida told him how the planet had once been a paradise, overflowing with life, crystal rivers, and thriving forests. But now, decay was everywhere. The planet's life force was fading, and only Jose could change its fate. But the help Zaida needed wasn't what he expected. To save Navera, its women had to form a soul bond with him, a deep connection, both physical and emotional. Jose's stomach twisted. "What exactly is a soul bond?" he asked, confused. Zaida took a breath, as if bracing herself for an uncomfortable explanation. "It's a special link," she said. "We need your vitality to save Navera, and that vitality can only be transferred one way." She hesitated. "Through your reproductive organ." Jose fell silent. The man who had never backed down from anything felt his face burn with embarrassment. He wasn't sure he'd heard right. "My what?" he muttered, barely daring to say the word. Zaida looked at him without a trace of discomfort. "Your reproductive organ. Jose. That's where the vital energy we need comes from. It's essential for the soul bond." Jose swallowed hard, his face visibly red. He was from a different generation. Talking about that with beautiful alien women was not something he'd ever expected. Hesitantly, he gestured toward his groin. "You mean this?" he asked, trying to be clear despite his discomfort. Zaida nodded seriously, oblivious to his embarrassment. "Yes, exactly. On Navera, this is normal. Vitality is shared this way. It's natural for us. There's no taboo." Jose struggled internally. To him, this was a subject wrapped in shame and complexity. But to the Novaran women, it was just survival. The cultural difference left him stunned, but he was starting to understand the magnitude of what was being asked. He thought of his late wife, of his loneliness, of his life without purpose since she'd gone. And now, helping alien women? How could he do this? Why him? The questions tormented him, but there were no clear answers. Jose was torn, his loyalty to his wife clashing with his desire to help. Zaida explained that he was their last hope. Without him, Navera would die. And when she looked at him with those vulnerable eyes, Jose felt something shift inside him. It wasn't just attraction. It was compassion. It was a feeling of having a purpose again, of doing something that mattered. And so, Jose made his decision. He would help. The process began. The soul bond was deep. It was a journey Jose had never imagined. Each time he connected with one of the Novaran women, he saw their memories, felt their emotions. But something unexpected happened. Too, he relived moments of his own life, forgotten memories of his wife, the day they met, their wedding, the laughter of their children when they were small, moments he thought were lost forever. With each bond, Jose processed a little more of his grief. He found new meaning in the memories. He found peace. But not everything was easy. As Jose and Zaida worked to save Navera, a new threat emerged. The Yobis, a race of ageless aliens who never grew old, were approaching. Feared across the galaxy, they remained eternally young by draining the life force of dying worlds. They preyed on planets in decay, absorbing the last remnants of energy from desperate people. And Navera was their next target. Jose knew time was running out. He had to complete the bonds before the Yobis arrived, or all would be lost. Through the bonds, Jose realized something else. His life experience was crucial to the mission. It wasn't just energy the Novarans needed. It was his wisdom, his emotional depth. His maturity made the bond stronger. And then he understood. The promise he'd made to his wife was a reason only he could complete this mission. That promise connected him to something greater, something the Yobis could never comprehend. The Yobis, forever young, lacked the emotional depth Jose possessed. Their bonds were inverted. They took energy instead of giving it. They had never known sacrifice, never known true love. And with each bond, Jose began to notice something strange. He was growing stronger, younger. His gray hair darkened. The wrinkles on his hands softened. He was rejuvenating, a side effect of the process. When he looked in the mirror, he saw a man he hadn't seen in years, a man full of life. The temptation was strong. He could abandon the mission, start over, live a new life as a young man again. But something inside him had changed. He had seen Navera's pain. He had witnessed the desperation of its people. He had learned the value of sacrifice, and he had found a new purpose. He couldn't turn back. Not now. The Yobis drew closer, their shadow looming over Navera. But Jose didn't stop. He completed the bonds. Only one remained. The one that would touch his heart. The one that would make him believe again. The final bond had to be with Zaida. And in that moment, as their souls connected, something incredible happened. Jose began to see Zaida's memories. But something was wrong, because among them, he saw his wife. Familiar moments, but from a different perspective, as if seeing them through her eyes. The day they met, their wedding, the way she had looked at him as she walked down the aisle, and he understood the depth of her love. But how could Zaida have these memories? Jose's stomach twisted as the visions continued. He saw the moment his wife fell ill, but this time he saw her struggling with something more, a desperation, a secret, and then a flash of truth. He saw her crying one night, whispering words he had never heard. "I have to return to Nevera. Jose is our only hope." Jose froze. His wife hadn't died. She had been Novaran all along. She had come to Earth on a mission, and when she saw Nevera dying, she knew she had to return. She had faked her death to go back, to save her home. Everything made sense now. Her last words to him, "If you hold on to a purpose, we'll see each other again," had a far deeper meaning. She had known this day would come, known he would be the key, and Zaida was a connection. Tears welled in Jose's eyes as the truth crashed over him. "It's you," he whispered, staring at Zaida. "You're my wife, aren't you?" Zaida smiled sadly and nodded. "Yes, Jose. It's been me all along. I faked my death to return to Nevera because my planet needed me. I couldn't tell you. I was afraid you wouldn't understand. The only way was through a soul bond." She took his hand. "It was the hardest decision of my life, but I always knew we'd meet again. And here we are, fulfilling the promise I made to you." Jose felt a flood of emotions. All the pain, all the loneliness, it had all had a purpose. She had believed in him, known he had the strength, the energy, the heart to save them all. And with the final bond, Jose felt it, the love, the sacrifice, the promise made years ago, finally coming full circle. His vitality flowed into Zaida, and with it, the hope of a future for Nevera. As Jose closed his eyes, he understood the Novaran women could only form a true soul bond of the true love of their leader, Zaida. But for that bond to be powerful, it had to be with someone mature, someone who knew what it meant to fall and rise again. Now everything made sense. A wave of energy surged through Nevera. The withered planet began to bloom. Plants revived. Rivers flowed again. And a shield of energy expanded from the planet's core, repelling the Yobis. The ageless aliens faltered, confused. They didn't understand. They preyed on vulnerability. But Nevera was stronger than ever, and all because of an old man. They saw Jose, a man who had sacrificed everything for a world, not even his own. They saw the power of experience, of true connection. And for the first time, the Yobis doubted their path, doubted their own immortality. Zaida looked at Jose. Her planet was safe. He had fulfilled his mission. But for Jose, this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. He had found a new purpose, a new love, a new reason to live. He wasn't alone anymore. He wasn't living just for memories. Now, he lived for the future, for Zaida, for Nevera, for what came next. Jose, the lonely widower who had once stared at the stars, searching for answers, had found something greater than he ever imagined. A purpose, a mission, a new life. And as the stars shimmered over Nevera, Jose knew, sometimes, the end of one thing is just the beginning of something much greater.